Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Van. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach to women, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution to help you reach your greatest potential. So often we speak about purpose in the terms of finding it, the tools we need, and how to know when we are on our destined path. But what we don't speak enough about are the small, seemingly insignificant moments that speak to us and have the power to create a life revolution that not only impacts us, but impacts the lives of thousands of others we had no idea we would impact. This week, we're talking about purpose and what it means to be a parent with Laura from Foster Parenting. Every parent and child has struggles at one point or another, and when this happens, we often seek resources to assist and empower ourselves. And if you've logged on to TikTok or Instagram in this last year, you've likely stumbled across one of Laura's videos where she offers such resources to parents around the globe, but especially those who are foster parents. What started as a way to fill the gap of resources during the pandemic has turned into a global advocate platform for foster children. It's also a place for teachers to learn about trauma outside of the classroom. What will likely strike you is not only Laura's purpose and mission, but how deeply mindful, grounded, self-aware, and grateful she is, and how she lives her life through a servant's heart. For the first time, a face and voice so many know is sharing her personal story and her desire for the children in her care and yours. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. If you have been on TikTok or Instagram, you are probably in a moment where you are watching one of these videos where you are learning about foster parenting. I will tell you, I stumbled upon a reel it's probably been 6 or 8 months ago, I guess, at this point. And I thought, wow, the mission that this woman has is so impactful. I want to watch where it goes. And it's just this daily understanding of how we can be impactful, which is why I wanted to have you on today to talk to this audience, especially women that may be in a situation that they're thinking about foster parenting, or they can't have their own children, or they're just in a struggle, not sure. So tell us a little bit about who you are, and we'll dive right in.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. So I'm Laura. I am a foster parent here in California. And I've been fostering for several years and have gone through my own kind of ups and downs and twists and turns, and landed, about a year ago online on social media, seeking out my own support, but in exchange, offering support to others. And it's become something I think is pretty incredible. So thank you that you mentioned that you stumbled upon one of mine. But so I've been fostering for several years now, and it's been an interesting experience to say the least.
It's so interesting to watch your videos because the whole content is about what happens when you want to dive into foster parenting, and then what happens when you're in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start first with your story. How did you decide that you were going to really jump into this mission of taking kids into your home and really wrapping your arms around them?
Sure. So it's sort of strange, I think, but I was a teenager and watched this TV show called A Home for the Holidays, where it's, showing kids who are in foster care who seek and want to be adopted, but haven't found a home yet. And it's this very kind of special, very Christmassy thing. And I remember watching it as a teenager. And that was sort of when I was first introduced to the idea of foster care. I didn't really know much about it, asked some questions, and the seed was officially planted at that point. And, went through life, went to school, went to college, and my dad got sick when I was a young adult and ended up passing away. And I went through this whole cycle of I was a caregiver. I needed caregiving support from my friends. And it really changed me and how I approach everything in my life and what I'm doing here and how I spend my hours. And being a foster parent seemed, it was always in my head and it seemed to be the right thing for me. And I took it year by year, step by step, and just to see what would happen and how it would unfold. And, I'm very lucky. I met my husband who was down to at least learn more.
Yeah.
And we ended up, signing up for an introductory. It's like a meeting you go to at the beginning. And we signed up just to see what it was all about. And we're like, let's do this. Let's give it a try. We can always stop, but let's see if we can, support the community in a more unique and impactful way.
Mm-hmm. There's so many questions, but one thing I want to say is that moment of seeing that show really is that seed planting for purpose. And it's so powerful.
It's strange to really wow, that was it.
Yeah. That was the moment that would be the trajectory of my entire life at this point. Not only
I remember the girl. I remember it was this 19-year-old who was in college and, I was in high school and thinking about college myself and had nowhere to go for Christmas. Yeah. And I'm like, what? I need to adopt her. I need to adopt someone like this, or I need to at least be a home for someone to have. And, I remember it. I don't remember her name, but I definitely have the vision in my head and remember that moment.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that's probably carried on through many different moments since then.
It has. Obviously, I have a much better understanding of the situation and the context and the nuances now. But yeah, I think about it a lot and I tell everyone about this show because it did something for me. Maybe it would do something for someone else.
I love those moments of purpose sneaking in without us being aware. And then all of a sudden they become that trajectory. It's so beautiful. I can't imagine a husband saying, okay, sure, why not? Because you don't have your own children, right? You don't have children, right?
No. And that was, and again, maybe something a little bit more different about me. I never felt, called or needed to have biological children. Family is important to me. I love my family. I do a lot with my family, but what that looked like didn't need to be something very specific for me personally. And when I met my husband, he felt good about that too. Obviously, I think he changed his mind on some things, but if we could provide family and safety and love, even just for a short amount of time, that was still, good for us. We were excited and happy to provide that, to families.
So for all of the people that are thinking about getting into this program, because we've heard, and we've even had guests on the show who have gone through foster care, who have had really hard experiences. And the mindset a lot of times for a lot of people is that it's just hard. They land in situations, these kids are landing in situations that are awful. We don't see the positive side. We don't see the lures that want to show up and, create these safety nets. So can you talk a little bit about that? What's this process like? How do we get started?
Yeah. So it's really learn by doing, and you kind of explore more about yourself the more you get introduced to each step of the way. It starts with a phone call to the Department of Children and Family Services, and you attend this intro session where they walk through tons of steps and procedures and what to expect. And often they have, a former foster youth or a current foster parent to share a little bit, which is super meaningful. And that really made my mind spin and think and consider. And, that's also what I've been wanting to show to others. This is what it looks like. Does this scare you? Does this worry you? Or are you interested? Do you think that you can provide this help? And so I try to show others and tell others about all these small moments, right? Because, I think when you are helping your community and supporting a family, it's a lot of small moments that really matter. And that's what we do every day. Sure, I, make lunches and tuck kids in, but there's a lot of these really small nuanced moments when you're helping a family reunify and come back, keep a bond, and then come back together.
That's something I really want to talk about. And something that is so prevalent in your content is that you really are that stopgap, and you really are trying to literally foster these souls into going home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lot of the misconception that, at least in my field, in my experience, where people say, oh no, that they're in a bad situation, they need to be taken out. And, how do you do that and keep yourself emotionally well? That's a big question, I know.
Yeah. So you have to figure out what works for you. Having gone through harder experiences, obviously not comparable to what these kids go through, but having, some experience in my life with a hard moment, I developed, my own self-care and coping skills during that time of grief and loss. And so I apply a lot of that to what I do and how I serve and support families. It's a lot of living in the moment and just meeting them where they are today and being compassionate today, and, stepping back and decompressing and processing and some compartmentalizing as well. And it does become a skill. The first year is hard and it's very emotional. It still is emotional, by the way, right. But you sort of figure out what you need and what works for you. And I do try to, let everyone know that you can modify and change course and set your boundaries, and it can be kind of what works for you in this season of your life. That's sort of how we've approached it. After every child has returned home, we take our time to reconnect as a couple. Sometimes we hang out with our friends that don't have kids and then reconsider, right? Because you have to reconsider each time and figure out if we're ready for the next family, if we're well enough and strong enough to do it again.
Right. It's so important that we don't have to just sort of barrel through, and that we can sit and we can process. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to talk about the specifics of any child that's come into your care, because it's not fair to the child, nor to the mission that you are trying to serve. But have there been times where you have really just struggled with those children that have come in, not necessarily with the child itself, but the situation?
Yeah, of course. A lot of my content is based on things I've messed up or struggled with. If you are an advocate for yourself as well, you can find support. There is a lot out there, with support groups and community and others who can help you process and give you advice. There's definitely been, kids that I've cared for that had challenging behaviors and of no fault of their own.
Right.
But there were certain services and in-home support and therapies that really helped guide us and teach me how to be a better caregiver and foster mother for them.
Yeah.
And, in whole, help the whole family, continue to move towards reunification. It's so important that we always work on ourselves and try to meet the children where they're at and continue to educate ourselves and learn more techniques, more tools to have in our toolkit, because the kids depend on us and the families depend on us.
And that's really true for any family, right?
Yeah.
We have to have that in any family, is that it's not just this blanket, well, here we are today. We have to continue to grow and learn and show up and serve in the moment, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think if you just start with kindness and compassion and an open mind, allowing your judgments to change, or your, stereotypes you maybe have believed, allowing that all to change and be fluid, and, being open to learn about others and what they've been going through, that's what really will make you not just a good foster parent, but I think a good human in life. And, that's what I choose to do.
What I love too about the content and, the learnings that people have access to just by following along, whether on Instagram or TikTok, is that you really are showing how you can show up as the best self for someone who needs you. Is that the driving force every single day, is just how can I be my best self and serve?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I take time for myself too,
Good.
you have to, or you'll burn out pretty quickly. But yeah, I my motto is set everyone up for success, including yourself. So what does the family need? What does the child need? What do I need? How can we all, set ourselves up for success? And that might just be a mental health day where we order pizza and watch a movie together. That can be something different every day. But yes, I think it's something that I'm always thinking about. I think any mother or parent thinks about these things and how we can get through today and get through the challenges we're presented with this week.
Right. What are some of the biggest challenges that you have experienced, whether even just going through the process of becoming a licensed foster parent, or even just what you experience on the day-to-day? What are those biggest challenges?
So I think that the system, I'm not going to say is broken because that doesn't help anyone learn.
Right.
I think the system is hard to navigate, and it only works if everyone on the team works.
Mhm.
And so even if, a foster parent is there and cheering them on and really advocating for things, if the therapist, attorney, and social worker are not all aligned on the path, things will go wrong. Things slip through the cracks. Again, I hate to say that, but I have seen that happen, a lot. I take that on me, right? So how can I learn more about the system and how things work? What are the other struggles that the professional team has? What red tape are they facing? I think this has also helped me in just lots of things with parenthood. When you're dealing with an IEP process, it's very similar. When you're seeking mental health services, it's a whole team effort. And everyone does have to be on the same page. Right. And so that can be hard, especially in a crisis situation, which foster care is. Everyone has a huge responsibility, caseload, task list. And so getting everyone on the same page, moving towards the same things is usually the foundational problem that I have found.
Yeah, that seems huge. It seems like a big mountain to climb. I think, do you feel like that's what stops a lot of people from moving into this space and being able to serve, that maybe they want to, they are curious about it, but they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be dealing with so much and I don't know how. And then there's this child.
Well, yeah, I think it's that and the emotional side. It's both, right? I'm entering into this world that I know nothing about. Oftentimes foster parents are not child welfare professionals.
Right.
So you are having to learn and teach yourself and look for your own answers. Mm-hmm. But then when you add this level of, emotional attachment and fear and worry and love, it can be hard to start, or it can be like, well, maybe not. But, I think I can say here all the time, like, it'll be fine. It gets better. You do have to be you have to have a strong heart, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there and take that step.
You said something big, emotional attachment. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people probably also stop because they think, how will I, allow this child to leave me after I've had them in my mm-hmm. care and I've loved them? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So attachment is necessary to, support a child through a crisis situation, mm-hmm. and all that comes with that. So I never shy away from that. But I will say that when you get to know the family and you invest in those relationships, mm-hmm. it does make reunification or a move and transition easier, because you have a better understanding of what's going on, what that experience will be for the child, how you can support them in that transition and support the family. And oftentimes you can hear from the child again, or the parent, or get an update or continue to support them. I always offer to babysit, after a child returns home, or go to a birthday party or send gifts mm-hmm. or whatever. It's different for each situation, but it is hard to love a child and then, say goodbye, but it isn't impossible. People do this every day. You have daycare providers and teachers who are, bonding and loving on our kids and our families, and, medical professionals, therapists. I think this is something that is more common than what I think people think about. Yeah. But so it is possible. And when you can find a community that's been through it, it does make it easier. I always go to support group. I always, mm-hmm. seek out that support and kind of reminders and, all of that along the way. But it is okay. And you can get through it.
That's such an excellent point. Something I've never thought about. I mean, obviously when we send our kids to school or in those different, elements that we're not there and present, they really are loving on our kids and
Mhm.
having an attachment to them and never really thought about that. So it's very eye-opening that you mentioned that. What would you want people who are considering being a foster parent to know that maybe you did not know when you started this adventure?
I think that things change. Your mind changes and, you think you have it all figured out, right? And you have your
Right.
life. A lot of people enter foster, you decide to be a foster parent after they're, a little bit more settled. Maybe they have a house or a partner. You kind of know where your life is going, but things change when you see it and experience and feel it. I don't think you'll ever be the same again. And that's okay. I firmly believe we should always be growing
Yeah.
and, exploring things in life. But you have to be comfortable with that change because that change is coming.
Right.
And you don't ever go back to who you were before. And, sometimes your family and your friends and your community changes with you too, because this is just like having biological children or making a big life altering decision, moving abroad, whatever it
Mhm.
is. This is it. This is one of those decisions.
Right. How have you been impacted as you've moved through this? As you're talking about change and it being inevitable and moving through all of this, I can only imagine that that has occurred for you as well.
Yeah. I think that I continue to change, but what I've seen is that, there's so much more work to do.
Yeah.
And my husband and I were like, well, we'll do this for a few years and just, help a couple families and see where that takes us. But I don't think that I could ever step away from this community and, helping our neighbors. There's
Mhm.
so much to do, whether it's just being a foster parent or a casa, which is another way to support, kids and families in care. I don't think I will ever walk away from it completely because like I said, once you've seen it and experienced it, you don't ever forget that.
Right. Like I said before, there's so many misconceptions about what this is. Can you talk about the good parts, the pieces that are really positive and are impactful through your experience, through maybe other stories that you've, been witness to? Can you talk about the good?
Yeah. I mean, kids are being put into safe homes. I mean, that is still
Yeah.
happening. At the beginning of foster care of a situation, there's a crisis, right?
Right.
And so kids are being placed into safe homes and they are being loved on. And there are so many services that do exist for the kids. So I think that is still occurring, right? I have seen the process of families getting help and kids returning to happen. I've seen it. I've seen the life cycle.
Right.
And, there's a lot of changes I would still make to that whole cycle. But I can tell
Sure.
you that there are cases where it works out and seeing a family come back together, stronger, healthier, ready is really, you know, empowering and interesting to see as just, from an outsider, even.
Right.
I think there's a lot of systems that people don't realize are happening in our community. There's places for families to go and to be supported. And there's different types of support services that do exist, and they can be incredibly helpful to families who are struggling. And sure, we can talk all day about how they need to be more accessible and, easier
Right.
to get to and whatnot. But when, like I said, when the whole team has the right mindset and the services are there, families can get stronger, kids can return quickly. I've had children stay with me only a couple of weeks and then return back to mom.
Wow.
This can happen and things can improve. And I love seeing a family thrive. I follow, there's, lots of
Yes.
families on TikTok and Instagram that talk about their experiences as well and how it can improve and we can end cycles. These things
Yeah.
can happen with help. And when you are showing up every day as that help and you have your team of professionals there to help, like we can help our neighbors and help kids and their parents and their family.
You have such a servant's heart. It's not something that is, it's grown, but it's very innate. And
Thank
so
you. And that's something I don't recognize, I think, in my own self, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you will. I do. I hope that you will, because that's not, like I said, it's innate, right? Because a lot of people would never make that jump from watching a movie to this is what my life path should be, even if it took a long time to get there.
Sure. Well, I think, you think about your experiences growing up and seeing
Mhm.
caregivers around you and helping others and helping neighbors and being philanthropic. And, I always believe we should be raising our kids, in service and helping
Mhm.
others and being honest with kids about what's happening in their neighborhood, because everyone grows into an adult and has
Right.
some extra time, money, resources, something to give. And we can all do something small or big to help each other.
Yeah, absolutely. One question that came to mind, and it may not be one that you want to answer, but have you had situations where you've had someone in your home and you've worked to get them back with their family and then they end up with you again?
So yes, it has happened. They did not come back to me. I was no longer available. I had other kids with me,
Yeah,
which was a very
hard.
painful day. Yeah, it happened. And that tells me that we are not helping these families enough.
Right.
And we failed. We failed this family to ensure that they had the skills, tools, resources to continue and thrive and, live their life. So yeah, it has happened. And I mean, I remember that day I got a text
Yeah.
from the social worker asking if I was available, and I knew exactly what it was for. I did help that social worker find a family.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it does happen. And this is our world. And when you
Right.
think about, cycles and addiction and mental illness and these things aren't being solved overnight.
Right.
And I think we have to stop expecting that from families. Instead, we need longer term support that's continued, and we need to all help each other. That sounds
Yeah.
so corny, but it is how we get through. If you think
Right.
about a time that you've had that's hard, things don't improve in 6 months, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think we shouldn't be expecting that of everyone, you know.
That was what brought the question in my mind, was that you said, we need to break these cycles.
Mhm.
And we are only as good as our system. Like you said, let's not call it broken. Let's call it in need of more resource.
Yeah.
Is there something that you wish you had that you could pass on, that the rest of us can support you in doing this kind of hard but fulfilling work?
I think just, you know, more people caring about
Mhm.
what's happening. It's so easy to dismiss families in need or, homeless people or, people in crisis, that if it's not affecting you, then
Right.
it's easy for me I have my own things I'm dealing with. And I think, just foster families need a community, biological families need a community, kids need a community. I think if we all, stop and think and ask how we can support, or what's the small thing I can do, it does make a difference. I
Yes.
think that, becoming trauma informed is a great place for people to start. And that can affect, I think, anyone at any point in any profession.
Amen.
And when we can apply a trauma lens to a situation and, have compassion and understand the context, we can really connect with people and help them in a more
Yes.
meaningful way. I think that's like, to me, the baseline is just getting more people trauma informed and understanding how to help people who've experienced trauma.
Yeah, and it's so eye-opening too. The other thing too is there's not a single human on this planet that has not walked through some level of trauma in their
Yes.
life.
Yes.
And so if you can kind of understand what's going on, then you do have that ability to open your mind and have that lens that my life may not look like yours, but I have empathy and compassion to meet you where
Yeah.
you are.
And yeah, and everyone, big or small, something you've gone through has been through something. And,
Yeah.
if you can put yourself back in that spot and think about what you would have needed and what you wish someone had said to you or treated you at work or treated you
Mhm.
as a customer, it can be applied to any context. I think it can make a really big difference. And I find that people who have been through, a harder time in their life make for the best help, right? Because
Yes.
they know they're
Mhm.
like, I've been there. Let me support you and help you through this time,
Right.
not just today and tomorrow, next week, but continuing on.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. It really is, because that's exactly what this whole podcast is about, right? Is when we walk through things, if we could turn around and hold someone else's hand,
Mhm.
show them the skills, or I've done this, let me, help you in some way through it. It's not going to look the same,
Mhm.
but we can create a better community, a better society, a better just overall feeling amongst not only ourselves, but others that we're interacting with, which is what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think you don't, some people look at being a foster parent as like, well, I don't know anything about
Right.
addiction or homelessness or neglect and abuse. Like you don't necessarily need to know about it or have experienced it yourself to be
Right.
compassionate. I think it's more just being open-minded and having an open heart and being willing to learn
Hmm.
and let go of your, judgments or stereotypes or whatever you have, preconceived notions, and just to listen and learn. You can support anyone and
Right.
you don't need a degree or specialized training. You need to learn along the way, but it's all accessible. I mean, that's the great thing about the internet now too, is
Yeah.
if you want to learn about something, you can find out about it.
Right. I call it Google University.
Yes.
Right. It's all right there. Let's just
It
get onto
is. Yeah.
Google.
And if you care about someone, taking the extra moment to learn about something they're going through is super meaningful.
Yeah. It is the definition of empathy and showing
Mhm.
up. Yeah, definitely. There's something that came to mind as you were talking about that. And I personally feel this way. It may not be the popular opinion, but I believe that every child, every human that comes onto this planet has not only purpose, meaning, but has the ability to show us something regardless of their age. I
Mhm.
think so often, especially parents, will say, well, you're little, so your opinion doesn't matter or whatever. And we disregard the impact that this little soul can teach us.
Mhm.
How do you feel about that? I can only imagine what you've learned from these kids who've walked through the door.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, I didn't realize, right, how, I was very naive at the beginning, just how
Mhm.
much these situations impact even the youngest kids.
Right.
And when they start to show you through play or, their responses or even just verbally what it means to them and how they're perceiving it, it really does open your mind and make you understand and consider different points of view and how things can be perceived totally differently. I think the kids that I have cared for have really shown me that we need to live today. Like, what
Mhm.
can we appreciate today?
Right.
And what are moments that we can laugh and giggle together? And I'm going to get like emotional. I'm just like thinking about things. And, you know, I think that was a big shift in myself as a foster parent is I went in thinking, oh, I can help heal a family or heal a
Mhm.
child or love them and it's all going to
Mhm.
be okay. And the reality is no, 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 no. We're just there to meet them where they're at today and support them through their
Mhm.
crisis, grief, loss, whatever situation they've been through, and just cherish that time today and walk through those steps together. And, whenever you see a child succeed, fail, whatever that it is, it's still
Right.
like a moment to connect and cherish. And I don't take any of those moments for granted. It is not lost on me that their parents are not here to see this. I really cherish and appreciate those moments I get to spend with the kids, and good and bad, hard and easy. I don't take anything for granted.
Right.
And I try to always remember and share with their parents and connect with them and bond and keep them involved and as much as
Mhm.
possible. But that's definitely what I've learned from the kids is we're here today. What can we celebrate today
Yeah.
and just enjoy this day?
Yeah. Beautiful. It's advice for every single person on this planet today. It's all you have. It's all that's guaranteed.
Mhm.
And what starts in the morning may be very different by the time that you close your eyes at night.
Yes. Yes. And I
Right?
think, it sounds cliche, which is why, I hate to say like live
Yeah.
today, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I hate those, but it's like, yes, I have woken up on days and started a day off in one situation, and the day has ended in a very different situation.
Right.
And, it breaks my heart that kids and families have to live in this phase of their life.
Mhm.
But yeah, you just take it moment by moment and celebrate, enjoy, and grieve, and, spend
Yeah.
those moments. They're meaningful.
They are. Maybe a next piece would be for so many people, maybe asking the question, okay, here we are. We have this family. The whole goal is to give everyone the resources to come back together. There are times that that doesn't happen.
Hmm.
And the judge may say, we're not returning this child and we're going to end the parental rights, which is devastating for
Hmm.
everybody involved. Have you been in that situation, or can you give us some tools and tips for anybody who may be saying, I want to do this, but I'm actually really scared of that piece?
Hmm. It is scary. So I will tell everyone is it doesn't just happen.
Right.
So, and I think that's what a lot of people are worried about with foster care is like, we just said you start one day and it ends differently, but like
Right.
these big monumental moments typically do not just happen overnight. The court process does not
Right.
work that way.
Right.
So you will have a general sense of timeline of, how long the court is giving, when is the next hearing, what is being recommended by the department. I always recommend attending court hearings when the family does not object, and also communicating with the CASA, the GAL, the attorney. These are all the legal supports for the child so that you kind of have a sense and of where everything is going. You can prepare your heart, get yourself regulated, do your own processing before you start trying to support the child as they face that day.
Mhm.
So there is time, and, it doesn't just spring on you. If it has
Right.
sprung on you, then something went wrong.
Something's wrong.
You missed something, or you got to ask more questions.
Right.
But so you do know it's coming to some extent. Now things can get continued. It can be appealed, of course. So these things are very serious. The courts take it very seriously, as they should. And, I do as well. And of course the kids take it very seriously. This is their life and everything they've known up until that point. So, just know that there's time. So you have time to seek out support with your support group or your therapist or the child's therapist. I always ask for a script or some advice from the kid's therapist if I'm about to deliver bad news, or I'll have them there with me as we talk about, a turn in the case that might upset them. And so if you are showing up every day and you're there for the kid and advocating, then you will have already set up all of this in your life and the child's life. And it is the reality. And this does happen. And now your support and advocacy for the child changes as you seek out permanency for them and help them get through that change and process that.
How do you find the courage to move through these pieces, to stand up and talk, to be in the courtroom, to showing up at the appointment, knowing that you are the person that is about to change someone's perspective? You're not the change maker, but you are the change of perspective. That's deep courage. Deep courage. Where does that come from?
I've never considered that before. I mean, I will say that I practice. And that's like maybe really silly. And I figure out what I'm going to say. I at least practice my first few lines and I regulate myself. So maybe that's courage. I don't know, but I see it as I'm going to do the things I need to do to prepare myself so I feel ready. And then I also always try to not do it alone. Whether it's a therapist, social worker, friend, or husband, that's, kind of what gives me confidence to speak and talk and say the words. And, there's like little things I do. I always have something to drink. I have my water and I take my slow sips and I, pause in between things and take some deep breaths, but, on a very practical level, but I prepare. And I think that's what works for me. And I write it out sometimes. Sometimes I have it on my phone and I look at it real quick. And, one final thought is I often say, I have something to tell you that's really important. And it's a little hard for me to say. Mm-hmm. And I find if I say that first, and acknowledge that this is hard, it kind of relaxes and kind of washes that away. Even when I'm speaking with adults,
right.
I'll say I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. And once I say that, it feels like, okay, everyone knows where I'm at and they can meet me where I'm at. And, typically I have a trauma-informed audience with child welfare professionals and everyone takes a beat and understands. Yeah. And so then we just go for it, right? Just try our best.
Well, what you just described is really giving yourself permission to be human, right? Like if I show you where I am, I tell you, then you know how to meet me and the expectations that we're all in at this moment. It's something that we all need to practice, whether we're in this situation or any other. If we can tell people what we need and what we are going through at that moment, it gives everybody permission to take that deep breath. And you talked about taking the sips of water or the breath. That's a mental slowdown, right?
Yes.
Beautiful, right? Like everyone, let's do this, please.
And I will have drinks for the kids. Here's your water. Right. We're all going to take a sip real quick because, we have to have this uncomfortable conversation and I'll name it. Right. And I'll say what it is or at least give permission. This might be like good news or bad news. I don't know.
Right.
But here's the news and we'll kind of put it out there. And yeah, I guess it's courage, but I just find it being prepared. And
yeah,
I like how you phrased it as well.
Well, courage really is doing the hard thing, right? Mm-hmm. Even if we're not prepared, even if it's uncomfortable, and even if it may impact others in a way that we are not intentional about, that's courage. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you do every day. And it's very beautiful. You talked about the practicing, which is what is on Instagram and what is on TikTok.
Welcome to my practice sessions.
I love it. Seriously, if you have not seen any of these reels, any of these videos, any of these conversations, log onto your phone, not right now, not during the conversation that we're having, but after, and watch these videos. How did you move from what you're doing to I'm going to show and teach other people how to do this?
Well, COVID happened and I lost a ton of my own support. And I was very fearful for my community of foster parents at large. Like, how are they getting through if we're all struggling? I went online. I tried to find creators or videos or whatever, so I could feel something. And there's really a lot of great content. What I felt was missing was sort of reenactments or helping me through certain moments, because just because the pandemics happened didn't mean suddenly foster care paused, right? We were still dealing with the courts, the visits, the uncomfortable situations. And, it was a lot to deal with, which in a very isolated way.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'll make something. Maybe someone will benefit. And now I'll feel like, okay, well, all of my stress or anxiety, this is something positive to come out of it. Right. Because a lot of the moments I share, I have practiced, I have been through, I have messed up. I want others to, at least see another consideration. They can take what I do, they can change what I do, or be like, this would never work for me, which is also fine. And so it was really just, I'll put it out there and maybe it'll help someone get through these very nuanced situations. And then, as it's grown, a lot of feedback has come in, just that these situations and these scripts and reenactments can be applied to many other situations. A lot of teachers follow me and talk a lot about helping, their students who've experienced trauma, how, it's touched a lot of different people. And so I'm happy to share. I said, it's somewhat therapeutic for me too.
A lot of times you'll post something and I think, oh, I need to send that to my client. She's having this struggle and it's not about foster care, but I know that this is the situation that's happening. So I'm going to send this off. But
Thank
that's
you.
the truth though, is that you're really impacting everybody across the board. How can we show up and be our best self for people who need us at this moment?
And yeah, and for me, it's hard for me to think on my feet, and you know, it's hard to know in the moment what to do or say. And so
Right.
I'm hoping, some of these situations could help you when you do have to think on your feet. You might
Mhm.
recall just a snippet or just a small bit that you can try in the moment and see what happens.
Did you ever imagine that it would blow up the way that it has?
No. No, my first video I made on TikTok, I sent it to my friend who's a creator on Instagram, and she helps me all the time. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, what do you think about this? So she gave me some feedback, which was very helpful. And I was planning to redo it the next day. But then I woke up and it had millions of views.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, okay, well, I'm
We're gonna leave that
not
alone.
I'm gonna leave it alone. There's lots of problems with it, but clearly like it resonated. So no, I had no idea that people would care. And I don't know, I feel pretty silly recording them. There are no children in my videos.
Right.
I don't record them when kids are home, because I did that once and the child from the other room was like, who are you talking to? What's wrong? Like, again, you can't do this. So there's no kids. It's just me being silly, talking to myself. The neighbors probably get confused too, but yeah, I keep going because people seem to learn something. And like I
Yeah.
said, it's helpful for me too, to potentially revisit something I'm dealing with and
Right.
refocus myself or remind myself like, okay, this is how we need to lead with compassion, even though you are stressed or tired or whatever.
Mhm. I see it as a personal journal to yourself and then to others. And I've always believed that the people that go through hard moments are our best leaders. And so when I see it, I think, okay, that's an experience. And what can we take away from it? And I know that not everybody is watching the content that way, but
Mhm.
know that there are people that you're impacting and watching you go through these moments and saying, wow, okay, that can be applied to everything.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was definitely, not the intention. And I would agree. It's an
Right.
interesting, I've never thought of it in that way, but it definitely is. It is these moments I've encountered or someone close to me who I've worked with. I change things, right? So, to make it
Right.
different than, specific things my kids have been going through. But these moments that I've walked through, it does feel good to get it out so people can
Right.
kind of see what I have dealt with and what I've been doing, these
Right.
years when we've all been locked away in our houses. This is what's still been going on and what we're all experiencing as foster parents.
And more so, right? Because we've
Mhm.
seen such a mass uptick of mental health
Mhm.
issues, of families breaking apart and then
Yeah,
financial situations not being there for support. And there's been a lot more heaviness in our world, obviously.
absolutely.
And we are finding more kids entering the system than ever
Mhm.
before, and not having the resources and not having enough foster parents. And can you
Yes,
talk
that's
about
a huge
that?
problem. It's been, as you can imagine, during COVID, people weren't necessarily running to be a foster parent. There's a lot
Right.
of fear about, kids coming in who are sick or may, be around someone who is, and a lot of people quit, which is totally fine.
Right.
It became too stressful. The demands on foster parents increased
Right.
and the expectations changed of what we were responsible for, mostly the visits,
Right.
just for people who don't know, kids in foster care still see their families, assuming it's safe. And these visits typically happen outside the home and are monitored by a court approved monitor, not the foster parent usually.
Right.
Now, all the visits went virtual, became video,
Mm.
and this is still like lingered around. It's not like we're back to normal. So
Right.
we're forcing kids to sit on video cameras with someone they love that they couldn't go see, touch, feel, hug, whatever. And doing this, it's just totally, it was a lot. It became a huge strain. And I think a lot of people were like, I'm done, or I'm pausing for now. So anyways, kids continue to still need support from the system. And sadly, in many cities, there are kids sitting and sleeping in conference rooms and hotels because there just aren't homes for kids. And it's devastating and infuriating, right? But that's what's happened. And it's continuing to happen in every major city. Foster parents are being asked to take in more and more kids. Kids are sleeping on couches, on air mattresses. We're squeezing our resources. And this is everyone, social workers, everyone, but I only speak to my experiences, but it's hard. And so we really do need good homes who are open to fostering with reunification as the goal. Lots of people want to adopt from foster care, which is really great and needed, but we also very much need just someone to kind of stand there and help the family in this kind of crisis time.
Mm-hmm. I call someone like you guidepost. I feel that we have people on this planet that are really here to show us as an example, and to guide those who just need that in that moment. So maybe it started with just one child, but it has definitely become a massive movement for sure. And so I thank you for showing up in that way.
Yeah, no, thank you for caring. And, I'm so grateful for people who's come along the journey and who engage with child welfare and are at least open to hearing these stories and seeing these experiences. Cause I think you can take a bit of that, plant some type of seed to help be a little bit more compassionate to our neighbors and people in our lives that need help in the moment. And, maybe you won't become a foster parent, but maybe you'll take a pause and spend a little extra time helping, a family about, or you've seen, or,
Are there maybe a handful of tips that you can pass on that do apply to every single mother or foster home, anybody, right? That's out there that you feel are some of the best things that you have learned?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things. So for one, don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to start and see. Just see, if there's an idea or like some type of small desire or thought or passion, don't be afraid to start and just start the exploration and just see if it might be the right time. Everyone's like, well, when they're facing big decisions or jumping into something new, it's like, well, the timing's not right. The timing's not right. I always recommend just start and see, just see if the timing is actually not right, and kind of start that. It's your life. You can stop anything you want, pivot. And I think with that, just making sure you're spending the time into your like social network of support, making those efforts to check in on your friends and family and cultivating that, your support network.
Right.
And that might just be people on the internet that you've connected with, online communities, and making sure you're spending the time, because you never know when you will need help or someone within that community needs help. And if you're not asking and checking in, there's no give and get. And, we all got to do this together. And so really spending the time on your group of friends and family and colleagues. And then I think the last thing is just reminding yourself every day that the small moments count. And, a small act of compassion and, a small donation or a small thank you, writing a letter to someone's boss that you had a great experience with, like these little tiny moments, to not overlook them. Oftentimes they take just a few seconds or minutes out of our day, but those moments still matter, and we need more of those moments. We all could use that. And I really believe whatever you put out there, you will get returned. And I think everyone, advocacy in today's world feels so big, right? With social media and everything happening. And I think we've lost track a little bit of just being compassionate or picking up the phone or sending a text or doing a small thing, because those moments really do matter. Throughout this conversations, we've talked about these tiny moments that really kind of impact us. And you never know, like something you do for someone could change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And you may not even realize the impact that you are creating in that moment, right? That's what's so important. And, you know, being in a space where you're creating and you're doing and this kind of platform or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, I can tell you as someone who does similar things, you always wonder, is somebody paying attention? Is someone listening? Is it making an impact? Am I doing this? Am I doing,
Mhm.
just know that people are watching and listening and you are making an impact. You may not hear it as much as you should, but
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I
definitely
appreciate
are.
that. You as well. I mean, I think we all play our part, right? And I
Mhm.
appreciate your words. And I hope you know as well, like every little thing that we can give can really change something for someone else.
Yeah, 1% better every day, right? That's
I
all it
like
takes.
that.
1% better, that's all. Doesn't have to be 100% better. Maybe you don't have 100% to give that day, but
Yeah, definitely not
1%,
every day. Yeah.
not every
Yeah.
day.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. It's true.
Is there something you want everyone to know that you wish that they knew?
I think in terms of, the work I do about foster parents, foster parents are not saints, angels, gods, or perfect humans. We're all just regular people who are, to your point, showing up and giving
Yeah.
what we can. And so, I think a lot of people sit back and you're like, I could never do that. That's not
Right.
within me. But we're all just regular people figuring it out and
Mhm.
not perfect, and just always trying to improve and do what we can in that moment or in that day, even if it's
Right.
1%.
Even if it's 1%. Definitely. And I want to have you give everyone kind of an understanding of where they can find you. And you have some great downloads that are free. And then you have a great system that they can support you as well.
Mhm.
So can you tell us a little bit about that before we wrap up with your final three?
Yeah. So I'm on TikTok and Instagram, foster.parenting. Can kind of all my content is ad free and you can take what you need. And I also, if people are wanting additional support, I offer free one-on-one chats for foster parents. And then I also, offer coaching for anyone who's related to child welfare or interested in fostering. But yes, I have resources, templates,
Mhm.
you know, libraries of things you can work through and learn about exactly what you're looking for. And yes, I do have a Patreon where people can, for as little as $1 a month, support the work I do and get a little extra content as well.
You had one video, I will tell you, that got me in trouble.
Oh no.
I was standing in the kitchen. I was like, what are we going to make for dinner tonight? And it was the one that you had with the kids being able to pick what they
The
were going to
menu.
have, the menu, right? And my son, who's 9, was like, really? We don't have a menu. I'm like, I make 2 different meals every night for this crew. Are you kidding me? This family of 5. And I was like, all right. So I printed it out. And I was like, you can do what you want, but it has to be in the refrigerator.
I
It
love
got me
that.
in trouble. I
I
loved
mean, I
it.
think, yeah, I got a lot of hot and cold responses to that. It works for us. I
I
make
love
different
it.
meals. My husband eats what I make for us, but
Mhm.
I do typically make different meals for each child because, pick and choose our battles.
Right.
And it was not a battle that I cared to fight,
Right. No, it was
especially
perfect.
food, which is so emotional and sensitive and
Absolutely.
meaningful.
And everybody coming from different backgrounds, right? And
Yes.
yeah, what you're used to and what you're not. But yeah, I make 2 different meals every single night, period, just because we have different ways of
Of
eating in
course.
our
I think it
household.
happens in more households than people will
What
acknowledge.
exactly. And I'm like, really, you want a menu? Okay, fine. I said, I'm speaking to her. I'm going to tell her that I got in trouble. And he was like, go ahead, because I want the menu. I
I
loved
mean,
it.
it helps everyone. It's a visual.
It
There's
is.
choice. You're empowering. There's
Yeah.
many different benefits.
I loved it. I loved it. Well, definitely go and follow, look at all of the different options and content. As you know, we end this podcast the same way because that's what people have come to expect. And oddly enough, it's generally what people write in most about. We're the last 3. So I'll leave it to you as to, do you want to talk about the 3 things that you're most grateful for, or things that you wish people knew? You kind of already went through that.
Mhm.
What are your 3 things that you want to leave the women that listen to this podcast with?
Sure. So maybe I'll do the gratitude.
Okay.
That's
Perfect.
just who I am.
Yes.
So I am grateful first for everyone that has followed me on my journey. And because I learn a lot from everyone who has contributed and said, something and helped me along my way or corrected me even. So I'm grateful for all of the internet strangers, as I call them, who have joined in and also, helped others and formed a community. And a day does not go by where I'm not saying, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful these people are here. And I'm also grateful for just the opportunity to be a foster parent. And there is some privilege involved with being able to commit the time, energy, resources to it. And I am grateful that I am in a place where I can serve in that way and I can help and I can, still have the energy to get up every day and do this. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my core people too. As I said earlier, my community, I have a few very close friends and family who have been able to support all the different twists and turns my life has taken, even through my own grief and loss as a young adult. And now I would not be who I am today for the people within my group. And they're incredible, friends and, foster aunts and foster grandmas to all the kids within my care. And I am just amazed at the outpouring of support they've been able to give me.
Beautiful three. I love that you said, I'll start with the gratitude because that's who I am. And that is who you are. It's very evident. And thank you for shining your light, for educating others how to be of service. And as you said, if anybody's curious, not only is the video content, they can get in contact with you and learn more. We need more people who show up for children. And these are children that need somebody more than ever. And you're making an impact.
And everyone can do something. And I'm more than happy to speak with people and help you figure out how you can help. But yes. And thank you for making this whole, hour about foster care, because it's not something a lot of people want to talk about. And it's happening in our communities and in your neighborhoods. And so thank you for just bringing awareness to it. It's very meaningful.
I just want everyone to have the same opportunity to heal, to be seen, and to be heard. And if we can do that when they are children, or like you said, when we are in crisis, it plays such a massive impact over the span of our life.
It does.
And so that's what's so important. Just show up, be your best self. Again, 1%. That's all we need.
I like it. Thank you so much for talking with me.
A few essential takeaways Laura shared are that each of us has a purpose and the ability to serve when we stay present and focused. We also have the power to make an impact, and in the end, all we have is today. We must live in these moments and give all that we can to make it the best it can be, not only for ourselves, but also for those who need our support, love, and our ability to see them in their most significant moments of need. If you would like to dive deeper into foster parenting or learn more from Laura's vast resources for parents, you can visit her website at www.fosterparentpartner.com or follow her on TikTok and Instagram at foster.parenting. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Be sure to tune in each Tuesday when a new episode of the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast is released. If you're looking for daily inspiration, join the growing community at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Or you can visit getyyourlifetogethergirl.com for additional videos, blogs, and upcoming events. Thank you for listening and being a valuable part of this community. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.